A lot is going on in the world as usual, and we'll be getting to that. On a personal note, glad to see that my dad is at home after having heart surgery and then being in rehab. So he actually came home on yesterday. So he's actually living in his own house, which is a good thing, and all along those lines. And this weekend over at the HI Heritage Center, there was actually some talk around climate justice because there was actually a performance that dealt with climate justice and even tied in climate justice to some of the other issues as well, including Palestinian rights and other things along those lines. So a young lady from New York was there and was actually performing, and there was an organization, I think it's Climate Justice uh, project or something like that was over there in the center. And then there was a Phoenix Festival as well. So there were a lot of things going on this weekend. So it was a full weekend here in Durham, North Carolina, and all along those lines. But now let me get to the news items because there's always important news things that are taking place. And we'll talk about those, including Israel marking the October 7th attack anniversary as the Middle East conflicts escalate. So Palestinian militants in Gaza fire rockets into Israel as it marked October 7th, and the pain will never leave, is what Nova massacre survivors said as they returned to the site 1 year later. So that's definitely something going on, and folks are even reflecting on how an Israeli kindergarten teacher became a battlefield hero on October 7th. So that's something that people are talking about. And you know, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to two American biologists for their work on the discovery of the microRNA. So the Nobel Prize for Medicine goes to the American scientists who worked on the microRNA, and their names are Victor Ambrose and Gary Rufkin, and they are two Massachusetts professors. So that is something else that we're seeing in the news. And the Japan government admits doctoring a cabinet photo after an online storm. So a new cabinet photo on the government website had minor edits. Hayashi admits, and so they admitted to editing their embarrassing cabinet photo amid social media mockery. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news. And Israel has launched a ground offensive on Jabala again, killing 17, and the IDF expands northern Gaza evacuations and declares a closed zone. So that's something else we're seeing as the Israeli military encircles northern Gaza refugee camp in that area. And Hezbollah rocket attacks on Israel hit Haifa for the first time, and Hezbollah rockets hit the northern Israeli city of Haifa, and that's something else that we're seeing in the news. And it looks like anti-Semitic incidents are up in the U.S. as they're surging to a record high. And in Seattle area, October 7th anniversary marked years of devastation and anxiety. And like I said, the anti-Semitism in the U.S. is at an all-time high as American Jews report an explosion of hate. But in Austin, there were advocates for Israel and Palestine that were reflecting on the October 7th anniversary. And two Chinese nationals were killed in a terrorist attack near the Karachi airport. And thousands staged a pro-Palestinian protest worldwide on the eve of the October 7th attack that triggered the Gaza war. And anti-Israeli student and teacher protesters at New York City University were planning a campus walkout. I believe that walkout was planned for today and all along those lines. So we'll see how this all plays out as calls for ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon as the world marks the October 7th anniversary. And that's something else that we're going to see as well. And in that other conflict that's taking up a lot of the news time, Ukraine has struck a Russian oil hub as Zelensky says the war is in a very important phase. So explosions rocked the Crimean air base in an overnight attack as Ukraine strikes a Russian oil hub as Zelensky says the war, like I said, is in a very important phase. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. And climbers were rescued after 3 days on a mountain in India. So American and British climbers who lost tent and gear on Indian Himalayan peak rescued after 3 days. So 60 hours and 6,300 meters, how several teams came together to pull off a stunning rescue of two women climbers in Utarakan. So that's something else that's in the news. And the Swiss are probing into the woman's voluntary death, causing that was with that suicide pod and all along those lines. So the Switzerland suicide pod was suspended after the U.S. woman's death, and definitely that's something that folks will be paying attention to, as the advocacy groups have suspended the use of the suicide capsule pending the Swiss criminal probe into its first use. And a mayor reportedly beheaded days after taking office in Mexico amid surges in, I believe, cartel violence. So Alejandro Arcos, a Mexican mayor who was murdered days after taking office, he was killed 1 week into his term. And in Mexico, the mayor of the state capital was killed. Like I said, that was that gentleman less than 1 week after he took office. And definitely, we're still seeing a lot of things going on. Even the Russian arms dealer Victor Bout, who was traded for Brittany Griner, is apparently to sell weapons to Iran-backed Houthis. So the freed Russian arms dealer Victor Bout is apparently back in business. So it looks like he's returned back to the arms trading business as well. So definitely a lot going on in a number of places around the world. And there's some other stories that I can get to as well. By the way, New Zealand Navy ship sinks off of Samoa. So New Zealand loses its first naval ship since World War II. The vessel threatened an oil spill off the Samoan coast. And so New Zealand Navy ship Manawane sunk off of New Zealand, but apparently all 75 on board are safe. So that's a good thing. And Pope names 21 new cardinals, expanding pool of electors who will one day pick his successor. So definitely that's something that is going on as well. So we'll see which ones he picked and how he picked them and all along those lines. I know one of the things that people are talking about is we've got an election coming up in about a little less than a month and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, at one of the events that I went to, they gave a card to make sure that you had an acceptable photo ID, because apparently in North Carolina, and particularly in Durham, you can go to the County Board of Elections and get your ID and all in that space. So they were making sure that folks were aware that they could do that and all in that spaces. But definitely it'll be interesting to see what takes place. And like I mentioned, apparently campuses are calmer, but they are not normal, is according to what the students and faculty are saying, as U.S. universities failed to nurture meaningful dialogue after October 7th, but some students are still trying to talk, is what The Guardian is saying. So we'll see how that plays out. And Hurricane Milton is strengthened into a Category 4 as Florida prepares for evacuations, as that would be a dangerous Category 4 hurricane. We're still dealing with Helene and the aftermath of Helene, but Charlotte County has ordered evacuations ahead of Hurricane Milton. So definitely that is something that folks will be paying attention to, as well as it definitely there's a lot of folks that are complaining about the misinformation in North Carolina, both on the Democratic and the Republican side, as that can be one of the hurdles to recovery from Helene. Matter of fact, there's some people, and this was reported in the New York Times, that are saying that that's another hurdle in the recovery from Helene. Misinformation is getting in the way, and we might talk about that even during our media show here as well. And Harris says it's not the 1950s anymore in dismissing criticism over not having biological children. And Kamala Harris called disgusting for Call Her Daddy podcast. Alex Cooper says Trump is also welcome. So definitely it looks like there are some folks that are saying positive things about the interview and some folks that are saying negative things about the interview as well. But apparently she's got several media appearances, but this is one. Apparently this is a very popular podcast, and she did have some things to say. And I watched one of the clips where she was talking about the fact that Trump had put certain judges into the Supreme Court, and that is why Roe versus Wade was overturned, because I think the announcer had asked her what she would say to Trump's claim that he was going to be the protector of women's rights, as he has said in a couple of campaigns and all along those lines. And apparently Elon Musk's photo from Trump's rally has the internet in hysterics, as he definitely said that he is a dark matter. And definitely, apparently, he's doing some stuff with his algorithm and Twitter as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out as well, and what folks have to say about Elon Musk appearing to support Trump and his jumping up for joy as he came there and all along those lines. And last but not least, and I'll bring in my friends and associates here on the network to see what they've got to say about a number of these stories, including the scandal-plagued Deputy Mayor Phil Banks, close Adams friend, has resigned in that area. So the New York City Deputy Mayor of Public Safety resigns amid waves of Adams' official departure. So, like I said, that's just some of the things going on in the world, but I'll bring in my trusty folks here and see what they've got to say about a number of these things. So I'll bring in Jim Eade. I've got Jim Eade with me. I've got Rick Rosner, so we've got the West Coast definitely represented and all along those lines. Yeah. And I've got Dan Worthington. Of course, I've got one of the founders of the network, Kim Calhoun. I think I've got the other founder as well, and I think Jacoby may be joining me, but Jacoby has apparently stepped away, so we'll see when he comes back. And if Nick wants to join us, so it looks like Nick will be joining us as well. So I'll bring Nick into the picture, and it looks like Jacoby's here as well. I had actually sent a email to Jacoby recently, so I'll mention that and then see y'all's reactions to what I'm going to talk about, because the campaigns are in full force and all along those lines. And there was a couple of ads that I found slightly ironic, and some people may have found them to be great ads in the way of putting people's words back on them. And I'll tell you the two ads that I saw and y'all's own thoughts around them and everything. But one is where Trump is saying that he will be the defender of people's Second Amendment rights to carry arms. And at the end of that particular ad is the picture that has now become very famous of him standing up and giving the fist salute after he himself had been shot. That to me is the definition of irony and everything. And then the other one that I found interesting, and Dan might like this one, is the one that is out there where Trump is using Obama's words about not wanting chaos, bluster, or blunder anymore as a positive for his own campaign and all along those lines. So he's basically saying that we would get 4 more years of that if Kamala Harris was elected, because she would be a continuation of the current administration. So, like I said, in some ways, those are effective ads. In some ways, I'm not sure how effective they are, but I just wanted y'all's take on that as those two crossed my mind, and I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts on either one of those.
I think you got to look at ad spend. And I'm looking it up right now, but according to what I've read, the Republicans have less money to buy any kind of ad than the Dems. But let me look it up and see if I'm full of shit or not.
Okay, well,
I can give you the report from Europe. No one cares here. They don't cover this at all. They don't care who wins. They don't care who loses. They aren't covering a lot about the war in Israel and Lebanon, and they're covering a lot about the Mexico apparently snubbed one Carlos's son, and that's a big deal. And the wife of the president of Spain created an endowed chair, and for some reason she shouldn't have done that. And so that was dominating the news. It was really stupid. So
since we're dominating the news and all along those lines, and those are 3 stories coming from Spain, if you can really quickly, since you're the other foreign correspondent, for lack of a better term, and everything, since now Nick is our foreign correspondent from Europe and everything, what is dominating the stories in Australia? Are they talking about the campaign? Do they care about the campaign? And are they talking about the October 7th anniversary? What exactly are they talking about in Australia? Shaquille.
Well, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Obviously October 7 was a story yesterday. It's October 8th now for us. Obviously that was a story, and I think it's a moment to reflect on that tragedy. And as for your election, look, we get essentially the same sort of stories that you guys get. We have Sky News, which is essentially Fox News for Australia, that will put all the right-wing sort of spin on things, and then we get the other channels which will put all the left-wing spin on things. And so I think most Australians will just try to relate the issues that you guys are facing with the same sorts of issues that we're facing. So misinformation obviously is an issue that we're arguing about at the moment. Immigration, tax rates, things like that are all issues that we're facing. There's a chance that we'll have an election this year. If not, it'll be early next year. So it'll actually be an early election. So those are issues that we talk about in relation to Roe v. Wade and the abortion debate that you guys are having. Obviously, that's not an issue for us at the moment. We did have issues. Well, that was a national debate probably about 10 or 15 years ago. I dare say it'll probably become a debate again in the next 10 years or so, but right at the moment, it's not an issue.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Everything I did see Steve was with us. So, Steve, anything that you were seeing?
So I fact checked myself.
Go ahead.
Eric?
Thank you everyone for letting me be here. Sorry, go ahead, Rick. I'm only here for 5 minutes. No, yeah, I wanted to begin today. I've been governor's race. I've been traveling a lot around the state for Josh Stein, so looks like he's going to win. But and then doing lots of media interviews. But the main thing is October 7th. Such a very horrific day for the nation of Israel. This evening, I'll be with the Attorney General at the JC Center, a Jewish community, to say a few words to the community. But he'll be the first Jewish governor. It's hard to believe this happened a year ago. The Middle East is even in a more dangerous situation today with Hezbollah, the attacks on Lebanon, obviously what's going on with the Palestinians. And I don't know whether this is good news or bad news for the Democrats, but I think foreign policy, would be a strength that Trump can speak to, that every day that goes by where there's more war, there's more killing, there's more death, there's an argument to be made that America is not going to be in the hands of Vice President Harris. Although it's not really true, it's not her fault. We'll see. I feel bad that we're in this situation. Obviously, the war in Ukraine, and hard to believe we're only a few weeks away from the election. So,
Hey, Steve,
what is it now? 28 days? Is it 28 days now for the election?
Yeah, 28 days. Hey, Steve, just really quickly, what kind of reaction are you hearing from the Democrats or just people in North Carolina in general about Elon Musk throwing his support full-heartedly behind, I shouldn't say full-heartedly, but totally behind, that's the word I was looking for, wholly behind the Trump campaign, because definitely he was out there in Butler.
It's not much of a surprise. I mean, we always knew that Musk was going to be, in Trump's corner. They're rather similar in terms of businessmen and, kind of what I would call autocratic leaders that, have the business interests and basically say, look, we want to come in here and change things up. We don't want to be like everybody else, and we've got all the answers. So not much of a surprise. I think that, it's just going to, come down to, I think this race is going to come down to Pennsylvania and North Carolina. I think that Josh Shapiro is working very hard right now for Vice President Harris. He's a really good governor, smart governor, young, and of course Governor Cooper working very hard for Stein and Trump. So I think Georgia is going to be tough now that Kemp is on the mend with Trump. Michigan may be tough. Arizona may be tough. I have a gut feel that a lot of those states are going to go to Trump. So the only way that she can win is to win Pennsylvania and North Carolina. That's my prediction. So I think those are the two states.
She would have to win more than just that, though, wouldn't she, Steve? She'd have to win Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and others.
If she won Pennsylvania, North Carolina, she'd win the presidency. Yeah, okay. It puts her at 270.
Well, that's not entirely accurate. There are swing states, and we have the Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan that are in play. And it looks like Harris has a pretty solid lead in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and Michigan is too close to call. But I don't concede Michigan to Trump at all. Arizona, yes. Georgia, probably yes. It's really remarkable that North Carolina is in play at all, and but Pennsylvania, I think, is going to be the determining factor who wins that. And
but we also have to realize that Trump always outperforms his polls typically, right? So if you look at 2016 and 2020, he did much better than the Democratic pollsters and just the independent pollsters did. So I think that Democrats.
You have to pick your polls because that's not accurate if you talk about certain polls. If you talk about the general polls, when you aggregate them all, that's true. But if you look at certain polls, they tended to be more accurate than because there are polls out there that are just bad polls. They don't have good methodologies. But the ones that do have good methodologies have been more reliable. And I do think that we can trust that, for example, there are blue and red states, and they're not going to swing. And there are 7.
It's going to come down to 5, 6 states, Yeah, it's going to come down to 5 or 6 states.
So Trump Trump overperformed the polls in 2016 and 2020. But if you look at the 2024 primary polls, where you had Trump versus Nikki Haley and people who just decided not to. Anyway, he underperformed most of the state polls in the state primaries this year. I don't know if you can if you conclude anything from that, because the state polls and the primary voting is weirder and crappier. So I don't know, but I did fact check myself, and I was right. The Democrats have spent and have booked to spend through Election Day $1.8 billion on ads, compared to $1.3 billion for the Republicans. So the Dems are spending almost 40% more than the Republicans.
No, and I can tell that just from the ads I've been seeing.
Can I take a cheap shot? Let's hope that they're spending their money better than they did on the charging stations, right?
I didn't hear that, Chico.
There was a lot of on the what? What's?
We're going to hear that and everything. Just really quickly, hey, Shaquille, just really quickly along those same lines. I know one of the things you've been complaining about, and it seems like the Kamala Harris campaign is trying to counter that complaint, is the lack of appearance on networks, on podcasts, on media outlets and everything. So like I said, I will be perfectly honest here. I've never heard of this show, even though apparently it's very popular, called Call Her Daddy and everything. But along those lines, it seems like there is, I've heard that there are several appearances scheduled between now and Election Day. Is this too little, too late? Or what is your take on that? Because it does seem like they have heard this criticism and are trying to address that criticism, for lack of a better term.
Well, if I could just clarify, I'm not complaining about anything. I don't care. I don't live there. And as I've said before, whatever happens in your election is going to have a minimal effect on my life. But as a strategy, I don't think it's been effective. I think that because of the way that Biden was replaced and how things have gone, I think that she really should have, done a lot more interviews and had a lot more media appearances. Now, is it too little, too late? I don't know. What we have seen at the moment is that the polls and the betting markets, especially if you look at the international betting markets, are 50-50. You know what I mean? Like it's like $2 and $2 for Kamala Harris in the lead, and then it flips, and then it's back the other way. Like it's 50-50. Nobody has any clue. If you look at the pollsters, right-wing pollsters, like people that are much more biased towards the right, will say things like, hey, New York's in play. New York's going to flip. Now, is it possible? Well, anything's possible. California can flip, but is it likely? Not really, right? It's not probable that that's going to happen, okay? But if you listen to some of the left-wing pollsters, they'll say, oh, she's in the lead in all 7 of the states and she's going to have a landslide. I don't think that either of those are going to happen. I think this is going to be razor thin. And even if either candidate does win all 7 of the swing states, I think it'll be very, very close. My fear for the United States, not something that's going to affect me, but my fear for the United States is that if you have a repeat of the 2020 elections where you've got razor-thin margins, are you then going to see a repeat of people, questioning the results and that sort of stuff? So, look, I think that Kamala Harris, she may well garner more support. I think it is getting a little bit too late. I think most people have made up their minds already. And the same sort of criticism that's being levelled at her, for example, with the Middle East, with, all these other issues, are the same sorts of issues that the right, for lack of a better description, are levelling at the left in Australia at the moment, levelling against the left in New Zealand, levelling against the left in the UK. So I don't think that there's anything particularly unique with the issues that are being brought up in the United States. I just think that the electoral system in the US leaves a lot to be desired, and not least of which is even if she is leading, because of the way the Electoral College works,
right?
You know, he can lose. I saw a report the other day that said something along the lines of, and I haven't fact checked this, but it said something along the lines of, it's theoretically possible to become the president by only winning 22% of the popular vote. It's never happened, but it's theoretically possible because of the way the Electoral College works. So, look, I wish you guys the best. I hope your country can get through this period of time. We'll all be watching.
Well, I want to say something about the 2016 election. You know, we forget that Clinton was leading in the polls, but 11 days before the election, Comey, the FBI director, came out and announced that he was investigating her for their emails. And what impact that had. You know, that's the polls couldn't catch up with that. Did that swing the election to Trump? Possibly. But more importantly, Clinton didn't campaign in Wisconsin, and Harris is. So the lesson, I think, that from the Clinton debacle, the loss to Trump, because she didn't campaign in these swing states, and there's no question that Harris is pulling out all the stops in these critical states. But Trump learned a lot from what happened in 2020, because he called Georgia and asked them to find 12,000 votes, 11,000 plus votes, and they learned now. They've got people in place now that will find him those votes. So I don't think he'll win. I don't think Harris will win Georgia. I think Georgia I think the fix is in there. They're not going to count the votes correctly.
But this is why poll watchers are so important. And I brought this up on a previous show. I think for any country, ours included, but it's more of an issue for you guys. I think for any country to have a big percentage of the population that doesn't trust the electoral results is really dreadful for democracy. It's very destabilizing. And I don't know how to fix that. I can't make any suggestions there, but I think the United States, in a non-partisan way, needs to make sure that the people trust what's actually happened in the elections.
But Shaquille, along those same lines, and I did see people with their hands up and everything. I mentioned that I had gone to an event at the cultural center that I worked for, because I was working at it, of course, and there was a climate issue, like concert, play, puppetry, a bunch of other things that dealt with climate. But one of the ladies that was one of the organizers of this event actually won here in North Carolina, to your point, Shaquille, an election. I forgot what it was. It might have been county commissioner or something like that. And she literally won by 9 votes or something like that. It was some ridiculous amount of votes that she won by. And that was even after the recount and everything. So she was appealing to people to vote because your vote does matter. That was kind of her appeal, because she literally just barely won an election. I mean, she won by less than 10 votes and is still, I think, sitting in that position and everything along those lines. So I'm hoping that she'll come on the network, because I did invite her to come on and just talk about
politics. Tomorrow evening, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you. Be safe.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick. Rick?
So last week we had on that polling expert, Carl Allen. And I asked him, I said, to me, the numbers now look like Hillary's numbers. And he said, oh, no, not at all. Because in 2016, 15% of voters at this point were still undecided, which meant that what Comey did, the October surprise, could swing a bunch of
We lost Rick's voice.
We lost Rick's voice there. Oh, hold a second. Rick, your voice disappeared. I don't know what happened. You might have hit the button.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. I don't know why you're muted. It's on your side. It's on your side. Yep, because it's not me. Kim, did you do anything? Because I don't.
No, I haven't touched a thing.
Okay. I have no idea either. That's unusual. Well, we'll see what's going on, because I just tried to unmute it and nothing happened there. So it's on here. It says can't unmute. Oh, their mic isn't connected. So it's on his side. So something's going on with his mic. He might have to go in and out, because it says their mic isn't connected. So,
Can you guys hear me? Because my thing came up mute.
Yeah. Jatovi,
you're okay, Jack. Go
Okay,
ahead,
I'll be back.
Jatovi.
Same thing. Are we hearing Jatovi? Are you hearing Jatovi? Weird.
No, not hearing Jacoby. You guys hear me?
Anyway, I want to do something really cool
Can you hear me?
for the efforts of Helene, Hurricane Helene, because there's so much propaganda being spread. And I actually jumped on someone and said, hey, stop being the problem and get out there, use your skills, video it, stop spreading propaganda and help. And so they did. And I'm so proud of them because they are filming the efforts. The other day, they actually, and it's a system, and what he did was show how the system works. They processed 65,000 pounds of provisions and did air flights of 123 air flights in to provide the provisions needed. And they need more help. At the end of his video, he said, we need more people, we need more help, even from other states. It would be greatly appreciated. So they're asking for that. The other problem we have, everyone's complaining about the funding, and it's all lies that FEMA is running out of funding and that it's all because of the migrant money that was used, because that's, as the intelligent people on this show have said, those are two different funds that they use, right, guys? So anyway, So they are two different funds, though, to me, one big pot of money is one big pot of money sometimes. But the problem isn't the money. The problem is Congress decided to go on vacation or go do their campaigning instead of processing the request for extra funding, which is sitting on their table. Now, the funny thing is the request for extra funding for Trump's securities on their desk, too. So hopefully Trump will get on the bandwagon and push them a little bit. But House Speaker Mike Johnson has stated that he is going to fight funding the efforts for Helene. Now, I don't know if it's, because of the election year. Some of the first responders I've spoke with said this is a shame that this has happened during an election year because everybody's decision making at the top is, because of that. But what I'd like to ask everyone, instead of being a problem spreading propaganda, just write Congress and say, please help fund us. Tom Tillis and a couple of our senators have written requesting the funding that we're going to need. FEMA funding will not run out until the end of hurricane season, which is November 30th. So get your facts a little bit straight. But instead of spreading the propaganda and not sure whether you're spreading the right stuff, just write your Congress and ask them to do the funding that we need rather than sitting on their butts. And I'm going to share this video with you because it's beautiful. These people are up early every morning and working until
assignment off the board with these guys. And so we've got them out here. And those are the airports that we're flying to. They get final instructions. And then we've got an area where they just kind of chill out in here. Then what happens is the forklifts leave here with the load, with the pilot. They go out to the airplane's out there, and the pilot loads into the plane how they want to with the help of the forklift drivers. And this is how the machine works right here. This is how we're getting 65,000 pounds out yesterday, 123 flights, and we have no idea how to put a number on what we're doing with trucks and trailers. So I hope this is giving you guys an idea of what we're doing out here. And we're trying to make you proud, and we're trying to save our people up in the mountains. And yeah, just like yesterday, I am tired. But it's so worth it. It is so worth it to help you folks out. Everywhere you guys all live up in the mountains, that's where I ride my motorcycle, man. It's just absolutely beautiful. We know it's cooler up there. We love our mountain areas. We love our Biltmores. We love our Chimney Rocks and all those places. So just want to know that we're working here for you guys. We're working really, really hard, and I hope we do justice. I did stay up a lot last night and read through your comments as far as where we can go, where is the most need. And I'm blown away by the fact of the little communities that are still in dire need. I know we're chewing through the materials up there, and that's okay. I want to reach out to the other states because our North Carolina people are probably about to get burnt out on doing donations. So if anybody can ship from out of state to here that would be great. I've got a semi truck sitting out here from Maryland. So shout out to everybody up in Maryland for loading that thing up. That's pretty awesome. Sorry. It's been a long week. It's overwhelming. So all right, suck it up, Matt. Suck it up. There we go. We got a bunch of charcoal here. They have organized buckets of tools for everybody that's starting to work on your houses. You know, these are care buckets with hammers and crowbars. We got gloves. We need more chainsaws and generators. I sent 500 gallons of diesel fuel up to Banner Elk today. We could use some non-ethanol gasoline in barrels. That would be helpful. I can't send that by plane, but I can definitely send that by truck. It's hard, but thank you. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
So I wanted to share that with you because, Asheville is the heart of the hills. Always has been. You know, people have vacationed there from all over the world, and it's gone. The people who are going in, it's gone. There's nothing left. Nothing. Lake Lure, gone. Everything gone. It has crumbled into the crust of the earth. The whole set of mountains that where he used to ride his bike, called the Dragon's Tail, the earth's crust just crumbled. And they're all devastated. They're wondering, why now? Why has the earth crust crumbled? The mountains are strong, So any help that we can give, stop spreading propaganda. See how much help he's doing now? Instead of sitting around going, oh, this or that. And then I wrote to him, please get everybody to write the Congress now. Everyone that you're touching base with, get them to write the Congress. But look how much help that they're giving. Instead of, complaining, everyone's helping and everyone's uniting. 123 flights went out. And it's going to get bigger and grow more. And we'll need more hands to help build. We're going to need millions of hands to help build. It's going to be years. The more hands we get, the faster we can build. And that can be another solution that, finding more helping hands in this country that have the skill sets to do those kind of things, that are willing to go up into the mountains and live in camps while we rebuild everything. So that's going to be another solution. But if you've got some spare money, if you got a spare generator, you've got connections, send them because they can use the help. And we've got another hurricane, I'm told, on the way. So, and that's not going to help with hurricane funds running out at the end of hurricane season. We need our Congress back sitting in their chairs, doing their work, making sure we get what we need in this country to survive, because they certainly didn't have a problem issuing PPP loans when they had a house to live in. They had money and they issued them to people who really didn't need it. So they've got the money. They got the time they needed to get off their butts and do their job. So that's my spiel for the day. I hope everyone's doing good, but let's be a solution, not the problem.
Thanks for sharing that, Kimberly.
I am so proud that, I got bitchy. I'm sorry, but I did. But I said, you know what? You're not being the solution. You're being the problem. And you're spreading propaganda instead of helping people. Next thing I know, he is up there with his camera and he's help loading and he's coordinating. I said, people call me and say, where can we send things? And I go, contact this guy. Of course, I'm sure he appreciates that. But anyway, everyone take care. I love y'all and I'll talk to you.
Just really quickly, I think that Toby and Rick were trying to have some comments earlier. So Rick, can you see if we can hear you?
Rick didn't have his hand up. I didn't.
No, I know, but Rick had something to say earlier, as did Jacoby. So I was trying to see if we could hear them, and then I saw your hand.
Sure. I hear you. Typical.
No, it's not difficult. I'm just trying to make sure.
Dan, we're delighted to hear from you. Please go on.
Dan, go ahead. We'll wait for Rick and
I actually am like I said, I'm weary of this whole political thing, right? Here's the thing. For all Americans, and the big problem that I see is no matter what happens in this election, one party or the other. They have to be able to govern everybody in a way that is harmonious. The problem, we've seen so much discontent during the last 4 years, and in the previous 4 years it was discontent on the other side, and the real issue is that there's a big difference in how the Democrats want to govern versus the Republicans. There's a big difference in direction the Democrats want to take the country versus the Republicans. Harris wants to be the president of change, but she's not going to be changing anything. She's going to be keeping the same old stuff going on that's been going on in the Biden. Trump will do the same things he did before. So it's, but the problem is it's the hearts and minds of American people, right? That we need to come together as Americans. Like Kimberly said, with respect to this thing that we've got going in North Carolina, and we'll have other problems and disasters like that. We need to be one heart, one mind when it comes to helping the American people. There are many issues that we face that may make this more difficult. Kimberly doesn't seem to think the border issue is affecting FEMA, but it is in the fact that money is money, and Homeland Security is Homeland Security. You take resources from one area and put it where it's creating a bigger problem, which is less financial security, food security, and other things for Americans. And you have a problem over in North Carolina where there's a huge storm and all this other things. I mean, it creates problems. We need to be consistent in our messaging and stop being so freaking hypocritical in our politics. And I'm talking really about, both sides. Jacoby calls it, acting or whatever. No, I think we just need actual leadership. No matter which side it is. I don't see much of that coming from the Harris side leadership. I don't see much of a leadership ability on her part, but she's not going to be running it anyway. It's going to be all the people behind her, right? It won't matter, right? With Trump, he needs people to be behind him because he's kind of nutsy, right? And so it's sort of a balance. God bless America. I hope that we can resolve this. But like 50% of the people believe one way, 50 believe the other way, and you can't ignore either part, right? So anyway, I'm proud of us as Americans because we have a system of government, so far that it gives us our freedom, our liberty, and our choices. I'm fearful that we make the wrong decisions, we're going to be losing much of that. We're already seeing tremendous censorship by the various media organizations in the United States and other places. Whether it's conspiratorial or not, I don't know, but it does seem like that these free speech forums should be open for people to express their opinions. Yeah, some people may be expressing things that might not be actually all that accurate, but still they have the right to say it and communicate their ideas. And then it becomes a battle of ideas, right? That's how America works. But it's not been permitted to work that way over the last 4 years. There's been a lot of censorship. So we've seen one candidate who's they've tried to whack a couple of times. We don't know who's behind that. And they're going to continue to try to whack him. So, I think that we've gotten crazy as a people, with lots of nutsy people coming out of the woodwork because of all the propaganda, all the hate, all of the bad juju that's been going on. And both parties are responsible for the bad juju. I'm done.
Jacoby, I think you had your hand up. We can hear you.
I can completely agree that we all need to come together. No one party has all the answers. no all Democrats, no all Republicans have all the answers. And we have to be honest about situations and start holding people accountable for what they are doing. And we cannot play the games that we've been playing of everything is equal, because it's not. It's really not. What was that?
Nothing. Please go on.
Okay.
No, go ahead and I'll let you speak.
We can't do this both sidesism, because that's where we get trapped into justifying particular things that aren't helpful. For example, the conspiracies and the explanation of FEMA, in which FEMA had to actually put on their website to debunk all the ideas that they're shifting money around or they're pulling money and it's immigrations. That's just pitting two people that are in dire need against each other. That's the problem with that. There's no shifting of money. Congress allocates 2 budgets, and those budgets are where the money is pulled from. The disaster relief fund and stuff for the immigration and dealing with that. There's no shifting of funds. The only recent time that has happened was in 2018 for the hurricane relief, when Trump did shift funds away from actual disaster relief at that moment. He also withheld funds from different places. I know that upsets people on this panel, but that is just a true fact that has been documented. And this is what I'm talking about. Hey, let's come together truthfully, honestly, and work together. We all have ideas and solutions, and we want the same things. But when we're sitting here fighting in the weeds because we have our own tribal politics and want to save our savior, that's not helping anybody. So we have to, and I want to reiterate what Kim just said, because there's another Category 4 storm that just popped up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're sitting here fighting, saying that FEMA's all this corruption, all this other things. Now those individuals that are now in the path of this storm in Florida that just got hit 2 weeks ago from Helene are going to avoid this. And then the idea that, they're not only giving $750. That is your initial investment to get you money on your feet already. So Dan, I love you, and I completely agree. We need to work together. We got it. We got the same endpoint. There are times when we dispute and come up, and this goes for Democrat, Republican, conservative, whomever. And Shaq, you're shaking your head. You said that this doesn't affect you anyway, so your vote doesn't count here. So just to point out, let's work together and come up with solutions to figure out ways and make sure we hold people accountable. And not get caught up in the salacious idea that, this man took 2 bullets for you, or people were coming after him. Well, we don't hear about the different individuals that Secret Service caught that were going after every other president, but this just happened. So let's not get focused on that. Let's focus on solutions to make sure that we all move down the road in a great path together and come together, because sure, you may like Trump's policies, and this is not getting political. This is taking all politics out of it. There is one individual that's getting on stage at this moment, yelling hateful things, and we're talking about us coming together.
Who's yelling hateful things?
Haitians eating cats. It's blood on Kamala Harris's hands for the individual.
Before we get on that road, I want to say I agree with Dan that what's great about the United States is going to solve what's bad about the United States. And there's plenty of bad things about the United States. It's a mess. Democracy is messy. However, what we see when there are disasters, natural disasters, is people coming out and helping one another. That is the pattern that has gone on throughout her history, and it will continue to this day. And yes, there's another category 4, and it's not just hitting North Carolina. Georgia got slammed. Florida's going to get slammed. You know, these are the types of things that it doesn't. Now, I could say it doesn't affect me. I'm in California, but of course it affects me. Anything that happens to human beings throughout the world affects me. What happened on October 7th affected me. And so we can't say just because it's not my problem in my backyard that it isn't a problem that I need to pay attention to.
Adam, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll be very brief. So Jacoby says that he wants us all to come together. The media has been so incredibly biased against Donald Trump, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, take your pick. And if you look at those two, if you look at the presidential and vice presidential debate, it was an absolute disgrace, the bias that we saw by those moderators. We know that the Biden administration coordinated with Facebook and X to censor conservative views. Facebook's CEO admitted to that. Number 3,
Musk.
We have something called lawfare. Lawfare, in which Donald Trump has been targeted, number 1, by the Manhattan DA. And now you see these cases crumbling, and you see Jack Smith scrambling to do everything he can to get a conviction.
Felony convictions, Adam.
The liberals have politicized the legal process. The media is biased in favor of liberals, and Biden coordinated with Facebook to censor people. So if you want to come together, then you should look in your own backyard, because Democrats are the party of division. And Trump will win this election. He's actually leading in the polls. And when he does, let's see if you guys can really come together, or if you're just focused on bashing Trump left and right like you've done for the past 8 years.
Hey, Adam, just really quickly, you mentioned Musk and everything.
I'm so glad I came on the show. There were too many liberals. I had to give some reason and balance.
Fair and balance.
The balance and everything.
Yeah, diehard Trump.
Really quickly,
And thank you, Mr. Putin. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Quick question for you and everything, Adam. Hold on.
Before you get to the question, can I
I had a question for Adam. Because I mentioned earlier that Musk had come out very heavily for Trump, and there is even some people that are speculating. I'm not saying that I know this to be a fact, that he is manipulating some of the algorithms in order to keep Trump at the top. So is that an issue on both sides? Because if we're going to be fair on both sides.
Of course it's an issue on both sides. Both sides are blameworthy. And I'm not here as some Trump, I don't love Donald Trump. But I will tell you, between the two candidates, Trump is far superior, and it's not even close. Harris is a phony. She has no plan. She's all style and no substance. And when you look at the division in this country, look to the media, look to the moderators, look to censorship, and look to lawfare, all perpetuated by Democrats.
Again, let me correct.
I'd like to ask you a question. If you are in love with Mr. Putin, which you just admitted, then you must love his partners in crime, like Emperor Xi, the guy from North Korea, and wife, leader of Iran. Are you in love with all of them?
Excuse me. The last time I checked, people in North Korea are very happy.
How do you know that?
Because they say they are.
You know that South Korean people 5 cents.
The xenophobia that you are
the North Koreans are going to send the North Koreans are shorter 5 centimeters.
They're being divisive. I want to come together.
Because they're
Adam, I really hope you're being very sarcastic.
They are hungry all the time. They should eat dogs and cats, and probably they do. Okay?
Jacoby, I was being dead serious with everything I said about censorship bias, media bias, moderator bias, lawfare. Let's let Shaquille talk. I've talked enough.
Adam, let me correct you on a few things. In terms of the social media, it's the same thing as a tax thing. It became a political issue because the right wing yelled a lot about, they're actually coming at only the right-wing individuals for the taxes. Well, the actual articles came out and the data came out. They were actually dealing with both sides of the issue, but there was no follow-up to that. Same thing with the social media part, the censoring. For example, Donald Trump went after individuals on social media and tried to pull up lawsuits. Donald Trump wanted to throw Mark Zuckerberg in jail, and that's what he's put out there multiple times. Elon Musk has fully backed the right wing and actually deleted, censored many news organizations that have challenged him, or even if you challenge Elon Musk. As a matter of fact, if you're an individual who's about to buy a Tesla and you say anything bad about Elon Musk on actual Twitter, he'll cancel your order, which has legitimately happened already multiple times. So when you're saying this censorship thing, it's flat out false. And trying to say that, oh, well, it's only Democrats, but you're forgetting all the things that are actually going on. And when I'm talking about holding people accountable and coming together, that's what I'm talking about. From Bob Menendez. Bob Menendez should be thrown under the jail.
Didn't you say we should avoid whataboutism?
Yeah, hold on. Let me finish real quick.
But yet you give immunity to your side, don't you?
Hold on, Adam.
You're the last person who's going to bring anyone together.
Adam, let me finish. Just like the mayor of New York City right now, who's gotten on trial in the same actual district that they just put Donald Trump on trial with, I think he should be thrown in jail too. You can't say that about Donald Trump because of your love for him. So in terms of
that is absolute nonsense.
Dan, hold up, Dan.
If you think you're going to bring people together with the rhetoric you're spewing right now, you're crazy.
You can have it after this, Adam. In terms of a man,
it's not worth it.
Before 2016, who was in court more than 4,000 times, you're acting as if he is some super innocent individual. He is not. His image got built from an ABC show due to the writers writing that, making
Can
him
I speak
look
so
like
that we
a
don't
businessman.
run out the show?
He actually had multiple bankruptcies. He's actually done. He's
Who
a
cares? Menendez committed a crime. Trump did not commit a crime. It was a political prosecution. The media is so incredibly biased. Biden coordinated with Facebook. You don't want to acknowledge that. So I have nothing to say to you. Coming together under your regime would be agreeing with everything you said.
Wrap up and everything. So Shaquille, and then I've got a parallel that I'm going to make to close everything up. But Shaquille, do you have something you want to add?
Well, I just find it so amusing to listen to Americans carry on as if these issues are unique to the United States, and also as if the rest of us, especially the English-speaking world, don't get to see your media. When Donald Trump won in 2016, the left wing, for lack of a better description, went bloody ballistic. And I will just say this about media bias and things like that. When Donald Trump was the president, there was a wildfire in California. Now, I can't remember the name of the place. I think it was something like Paradise or Sunshine or something along those lines. And Donald Trump went there and he mispronounced the name and corrected himself immediately. And the media just crucified him for it. Of course, when Donald Trump, when Joe Biden says, "What storm?" I'm paraphrasing. He gets a slide. What I find really fascinating, though, is that the media around the world does the same thing. Our conservative prime minister was in Hawaii when we had the bushfires in Australia, and he was criticised for not coming back more quickly. Technically, it was a state issue, but that's not the point. He was criticised for not coming back more quickly. He was also criticised because many of the American states said, we're in the middle of our winter. Would you like to take our equipment, our fire trucks, even our personnel will volunteer to go over to Australia and help you guys put it out? And our Prime Minister turned it down. Now, he was, again, crucified, but he wasn't just crucified by left. He was crucified by the right as well for that, because it was a really bad move. We suffered as a result, and America is one of our closest and most important allies. It just seems funny to me that when the left gets any criticism, all of a sudden, so let's take the politics out of it. Let's make sure that we all come together. And they did so, in my opinion, because they were getting a lot of criticism. Now, we've got reports here in Australia. I don't know if they're true or not, but we have reports here in Australia that FEMA is being accused of withholding water and supplies that have been given to them, that they've threatened to arrest people that have tried to assist, things like that. Is that true? I've got no idea. I'm not there. But certainly I think the optics look really bad. And I think that it's a bit disingenuous for the left to then turn around and say, well, we should all just come together, when, as Adam has rightly pointed out, I believe that much of the cause of the conflict was from the left prior to the 2020 election. Now, the debacle that occurred on January 6th and between the election and January 6th and perhaps afterwards, yes, that was very, very problematic. And I think that Trump should have handled that much differently to the way that he did. That being said, I do not believe that Democrats are blameless. And I think that most of the division, from my personal experience and what I've observed around the world, is from the left. And I do not accept and cannot possibly accept that this is happening everywhere else in the world, except for in the United States. In the United States, the Democrats are blameless. I don't believe
just really quickly, because we were wrapping up and everything. What I was going to say, and Jacoby will love this, Jim will love this early as well. I really wish that, to some degree, that we would do like our animal brethren and everything. Because I'm just going to tell you what I was doing earlier today and everything. And yes, it was silly, and because sometimes you got to have some silly moments in life when you're busy doing work of different sorts that I do and everything. So yes, I was watching one of those silly animal videos where the animals were actually literally helping each other. So I sometimes wish that we would have that. So it's one of those silly videos where you see the dogs that are hanging out with the sheep, the dogs that are hanging out with the cows, the dogs that are hanging out with a number of other folks as well. So I think that us as humans on the left and the right would do a little bit more of that. That's just my personal.
Well, I'd rather we don't act like Animal Farm if that's the analogy you want to go with.
You know what I'm talking about, Jim.
I couldn't help myself, Jim. Sorry.
You see those videos where the dogs are out there hanging out, or the cats are sleeping with the dogs, and a number of other things. So I think that things that are perceived to be enemies can actually get along, get the point that I'm making and everything. So on that note, we're getting ready to get on out of here.